Have you ever felt a profound truth stirring within you, a wisdom that defies logical explanation, only to see it dismissed or ignored by the world around you? Have you ever wondered why the stories of powerful sovereign women seem to be footnotes in history, while the narratives of control and conquest take center stage? This isn't a coincidence. It is the echo of a deliberate, calculated act, an ancient betrayal that sought to erase the most potent force on this planet, the divine feminine. Her power wasn't just diminished, it was targeted, demonized, and driven into the shadows, leaving a void that has shaped our reality for millennia. But what if that exile is ending? What if the quiet whispers you hear in your soul are the heralding of her magnificent return? Welcome back to Feminine Queen, my ladies. This is the space where we explore the depths of your inherent power, your regal nature, and the unshakable strength that defines your very essence. Today, we are not just scratching the surface of self-improvement. We are embarking on a deep archaeological dig into the psyche of humanity itself. We will uncover why the divine feminine was systematically erased and, more importantly, why she is surging back with undeniable force right now within you. This journey requires courage, for it means looking at the historical wounds and the psychological chains that were forged to suppress your inner authority. As a feminine queen, you are not meant to live in the shadow of this suppression. You are destined to be the living embodiment of its reclamation, using ancient wisdom to forge a modern throne of self-mastery and grace. We will navigate this profound story through the lens of Stoicism, the ancient philosophy of resilience and inner command, revealing how its principles are the perfect tools for the modern queen. Stoicism teaches you to build an unbreachable inner citadel, to find power not in controlling the world, but in mastering yourself. It is the framework that allows you to hold the immense power of the returning feminine without being consumed by it, to wield your wisdom with precision and to remain serene amidst the storms of change. So, prepare to look beyond the veil of history and programming, because the story of the divine feminine's exile and return is not just a myth from the past. It is your story, happening right now, and understanding it is the key to unlocking the full, sovereign power that you are meant to wield. You are a feminine queen, and your era is dawning. 1. The journey begins with acknowledging a truth so dangerous it had to be buried, your unbanishable inner gnosis. The most perilous truth, targeted for millennia yet eternally resident within, is your divine feminine power. This is not something you learn from a book or a lecture. It is an embodied knowing, a sovereign gnosis that springs from the indwelling source of creation itself. It is a current of intelligence that defies confinement by rational structures or external systems of control. The great Stoic thinkers would tell you that true power, your only real power, lies in discerning what is within your control, and nothing is more fundamentally yours than your perception and your alignment with this inner wellspring of truth. This is the art of focusing your energy, not on changing the unchangeable world, but on mastering the inner kingdom of your mind and soul. The brilliant psychoanalyst Carl Jung framed this inner force as the anima mundi, the soul of the world, which is perfectly mirrored within your own anima, the profound, instinctive and creative feminine principle that resides in the psyche of every person. Its perceived danger to the established order lies in its inherent freedom and its connection to a deeper reality. It cannot be fully governed, legislated, or controlled from the outside. Recognizing this eternal flame within you is the first and most crucial act of reclaiming your regal sovereignty. 2. To understand the return, you must first understand the betrayal. Over eons, Forces driven by a thirst for dominance sought to desecrate this feminine wisdom, precisely so they could erect empires of control, build rigid social and religious hierarchies, and establish systems of governance completely divorced from the harmonious flow of nature. This act of suppression systematically severed humanity from a way of being that honored the earth and its cycles, a time when harmonic natural intelligence was the guiding principle, and the feminine was revered as the sacred source of life, social harmony, and embodied coexistence. From a Stoic perspective, this historic suppression represents a profound and catastrophic disconnect from the principle of living in accordance with nature's true logos, which was never just about cold logic, but encompassed the flowing, creative, and nurturing aspects of the cosmos. It was a deviation from virtue and wisdom into the folly of control. Carl Jung's work identifies this as a massive act of collective shadow projection. The immense, untamed power of the feminine was cast into the shadow of the collective psyche, and those who embodied it, the healers, the mystics, the wise women, were labeled as dangerous. The witch, who was burned at the stake, was often simply the carrier of inconvenient wisdom and a deep intuitive connection to nature, which threatened the fragile, emerging patriarchal ego structure that demanded singular, external authority. This systemic betrayal created a foundational wound in the human spirit, the scars of which we still see today. 3. Despite the depth of that historical wound, a quiet yet powerful reawakening is now unfolding across the globe. This resurgence of divine feminine wisdom is not a loud revolution fought with weapons, but a silent one taking place in the hearts and minds of individuals like you. It is not a mental conclusion reached through debate, but an internal dawning, a gentle yet insistent voice of truth that you can no longer ignore. It often manifests as a persistent curiosity, a call to deep emotional inquiry, or a growing inability to silence your inner knowing, even when it contradicts the prevailing narrative. The Stoics placed immense value on the practice of attending to inner impressions, what they called phantasiae, without immediate or reactive judgment. This is the exact discipline required to hear the nascent feminine voice within. It is the practice of listening with detached clarity before the conditioned mind can rush in to dismiss it. In the language of Carl Jung's psychology, this phenomenon is the collective anima beginning to stir. She is urging a conscious descent from the dominance of the overactive, logic-based mind into the rich, deep, and often neglected world of the unconscious, the realm of profound feeling, symbolic dreams, and raw intuition. This monumental shift begins not with a shout, but with a whisper you finally choose to honor. 4. Heeding this internal call inevitably initiates a descent, a journey down the rabbit hole of authentic self-inquiry and a deeper investigation of reality itself. This is a path that quickly transcends the limits of mental rationalization and academic knowledge. It demands that you learn to turn off the chattering, overactive mind and begin navigating with your sixth sense, your deep intuition, your somatic feelings, and your relentless internal pursuit of coherence. You start to notice when things don't add up, not just logically, but energetically. You can feel the dissonance between what you are told and what you know to be true in your bones. The Stoic path champions the virtue of living according to nature, which requires aligning not just with the physical world, but with your own inner nature. This means attuning to a deeper, more intuitive sense of what is coherent and true, beyond the layers of societal conditioning and dogma. For this reason, Carl Jung celebrated this kind of descent as the essential work of life, the process of engaging with your unconscious and integrating your shadow. Unraveling the profound lack of coherence in your own life and in the world around you is the royal road to what Carl Jung called individuation, the process of becoming a whole, integrated individual. This path requires immense courage, the courage to face the truths that the rational mind has been trained to avoid at all costs. 5. At the very heart of the suppression was a single luminous target, Sophia, which translates to divine wisdom, the feminine face of God. The original practice of philosophy was not a dry academic exercise. Its name means love of Sophia, a profound reverence for her wisdom. Ancient texts, like those found at Nag Hammadi, which were buried to escape destruction, reveal her true and staggering stature. Sophia was understood not as a mere attribute, but as the creative emanation of the divine, the very womb of the universe that gives birth to the Logos. This original Logos was not just the masculine word or pure logic. It was a unified concept that encompassed feminine feeling, embodied gnosis, and intuitive intelligence. When understood in its holistic, original sense, the Stoic concept of the Logos resonates perfectly with this unified vision. It is universal reason, infused with the profound wisdom of nature's creative, life-giving flow. The deliberate demotion of Sophia from co-creator to a fallen secondary figure was perhaps the greatest theft in spiritual history. It was the theft of wisdom's sacred source. In his extensive work on archetypes, Carl Jung identifies Sophia with the archetype of the wise old woman, the transformative feminine spirit who appears in myths and dreams to guide the hero or heroine towards wholeness and true self-knowledge. Erasing her from our sacred stories was a way of severing our connection to our own inner guide. All right, feminine queens, thank you for being the heart of this incredible community. We wouldn't be here without your likes, comments, and shares. Keep that powerful energy flowing, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and share. I love you forever for it. 6. The exclusion of the divine feminine from our spiritual and social structures was not an accident. It was a calculated and strategic maneuver born of fear. Early church fathers, such as Pope Gregory I, played a pivotal role in deliberately exiling the feminine principle. This is most starkly exemplified in the historical smearing of Mary Magdalene, a figure who many early texts suggest held a status of spiritual authority equal to that of the male apostles. The reason for this exclusion was simple. Her inclusion threatened the entire power structure. An embodied woman who was seen as a direct vessel of divine connection and inner authority, of personal gnosis, would completely dismantle the need for an external, male-dominated religious hierarchy to mediate the sacred. A woman who knows God within herself needs no priest to validate her experience. This directly challenges the Stoic virtue of self-governance and reliance on inner virtue above all external validation. The suppression of the feminine was a direct attack on this principle for half of humanity. Carl Jung understood this pattern as a manifestation of the patriarchal ego's deep-seated fear of the anima's power. He theorized that the integrated anima possesses the terrifying ability to connect a person's conscious ego directly to the self, Carl Jung's term for the God image within, the totality of the psyche. This bypasses the need for any external mediation. The infamous labeling of Magdalene as a prostitute was a classic act of shadow projection, casting the sacred erotic life force energy and her powerful intuitive questioning into the darkness to neutralize her threat. 7. To grasp what was lost, you must understand that the feminine principle transcends gender. It is the energetic currency of divine creativity itself. It is the ineffable enigma of understanding without needing to rationally dissect, the art of deep containment without the need for rigid control, the expression of sovereign love that is both fierce and unconditional, and the ability to tap into the universal stream of consciousness. To truly yield to this inner feminine flow is an act that induces a necessary dissolution of the hard-edged ego, fostering a profound sense of trust and a relentless seeking of coherence and harmony. This experience aligns perfectly with the highest Stoic ideal of living in harmony with universal nature, which means yielding to the great creative and ordering principle of the cosmos. For Carl Jung, a person's healthy and integrated anima is the essential gateway to the treasures of the self and the creative unconscious. He saw it as the bridge to the deepest and most meaningful parts of our being. The systematic repression of this essence is what led to the great Abrahamic split that severed the individual from their direct experience of the divine source, inducing a collective amnesia of feeling and a deep distrust of intuition that continues to plague the modern world. 8. Historically, it was women who often embodied the sacred bridge to cosmic oneness. They were the healers, the midwives, and the oracles who were deeply connected to what can be called womb consciousness. This is not just a biological reality, but a spiritual one. A deep cellular understanding of the interconnected life-death rebirth cycle, a direct connection to the zero-point field of infinite potential which mirrors the cosmic womb from which all of creation springs. This wisdom was revered as the origin of life, harmony, and community cohesion. Its desecration, through the burning of witches, the suppression of feminine rights, and the pathologizing of female bodies, was an essential tactic for establishing systems of top-down control. The Stoic practice of amor fati, or loving one's fate, teaches a radical acceptance of nature's cycles, a wisdom that womb consciousness understands not as a philosophy, but as a lived reality. Carl Jung recognized that the archetype of the witch was frequently a projection onto women who were carriers of this forbidden knowledge. They held the secrets of herbal wisdom, which is nature's logos in practical form, and practiced intuitive healing. These were aspects of reality that were ruthlessly suppressed by the dominant conscious attitude of the time, leaving a legacy of collective trauma and a deep-seated fear of authentic feminine power that still lingers. 9. The great fracture in Western consciousness can be pinpointed to the shift from Philosophia, the love of Sophia's holistic wisdom, to the narrow disembodied rationalism of the Enlightenment, perfectly encapsulated by René Descartes' famous declaration, "I think, therefore I am." This statement severed being from feeling, from intuition and from the body, locating human identity solely within the thinking mind. The balanced, holistic logos of the Stoics was reduced to mere analytical reason, divorcing it from the very soul it was meant to describe. Influential figures like Francis Bacon openly advocated for the exploitation of nature, which was consistently coded as feminine, famously writing that we must put her on the rack to extract her secrets. This philosophy birthed the industrial and technological systems that value output over feeling, exploitation over harmony, and rigid rational control over intuitive creative flow. While Stoicism can be misunderstood and co-opted into this cold, unfeeling rationality, true Stoic virtue requires a disciplined alignment with the whole of nature's wisdom, which must include the feminine intuitive principle. From his clinical practice, Carl Jung saw this historical shift as a catastrophic inflation of the conscious thinking function. This overemphasis on logic led to the mass repression of the vital feeling and intuitive functions, which he argued are absolutely necessary for psychological wholeness, leading directly to the societal dysfunction, alienation, and meaninglessness that characterize so much of modern life. 10. The time for analysis is passing. The time for embodiment is now. Our planet, Gaia, a living feminine body in her own right, is signaling profound distress, demanding a return to balance and harmony. The imperative now is integration. This means consciously integrating the divine feminine, that passionate, creative, harmonizing flow within you, is not a passive act of surrender, but the awakening of a dynamic force of creation, resonance, and sovereign expression. It is the courage to feel deeply, to love fiercely, and to speak your truth with unwavering clarity. The ancient wisdom of Stoicism provides the perfect internal structure for this work. It gives you the tools to build that unwavering inner citadel, allowing you to embody this powerful creative flow with grace and resilience, and to master the inner storms that its awakening may initially stir. You learn to observe the rising tides of emotion without being swept away by them. Ultimately, Carl Jung's entire psychological project was aimed at this very goal, the path of individuation, which he stated requires the conscious integration of the feminine and masculine principles, the anima and animus, to achieve wholeness. Any fear, shame, or dismissal you feel towards the feminine, whether in yourself or in the world, reflects a disowned and unhealed aspect of your own self. Embracing this integrated energy, a sacred union of divine flow and empowered expression, is the definitive path to healing the inner and outer worlds. It is how you restore the beauty, devotion, and deep inner listening that defines true feminine queenship. The answers you seek are not in the overthinking mind alone, but in yielding to the profound, embodied knowing that is your birthright. The story of the divine feminine's erasure is not a tragedy to be mourned, but a truth to be reclaimed. It is a call to action written in the very fabric of your soul. Her return is not something that will be announced on the news or legislated by governments. It is happening within the temple of your own body, in the quiet sanctum of your own heart. It is the courage to question everything you have been taught about power, about wisdom, and about your own nature. As you have seen, this journey is supported by the timeless strength of Stoic philosophy and the profound depth of Jungian insight, which together provide a map and a compass for navigating this magnificent unfolding. They remind you that your greatest power lies not in external circumstances, but in your internal state, your resilience, your virtue, and your unwavering connection to your inner truth. You must understand that you are not just a passive witness to this global shift. You are its primary agent. Every time you choose intuition over dogma, coherence over conformity, and embodied knowing over external validation, you are rebuilding the temple of the goddess within yourself. You are a feminine queen, and that title is not about entitlement or luxury. It is about profound responsibility. It is the responsibility to hold this rising energy with grace, to wield your power with wisdom, and to lead not by decree, but by the magnetic resonance of your own integrated being. Your throne awaits beyond the ashes of history, and it is forged from self-mastery and unconditional self-love. This path of reclamation is the essence of our work here at the Feminine Queen channel. It is a journey we take together, a community of sovereign souls dedicated to living lives of depth, purpose, and authentic power. Do not let this conversation end here. Take these ideas into your life. Notice where you have been taught to distrust your own feminine nature, your intuition, your emotions, your creativity. Begin the Stoic practice of observing these ingrained patterns without judgment, and then make a conscious choice to honor the wiser voice within. Let this be the moment you fully commit to your own becoming. If this message has resonated in the depths of your being, if it has stirred that ancient knowing within you, then join this movement of awakening queens. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss a step on this journey, and share this video with another woman who is ready to remember her own power. Your presence and your voice are vital. Leave a comment below and share one way you will choose to honor your inner feminine wisdom this week. Thank you for your courage and your grace. Until next time, reign on.